Okay, let's go over the review. This first question is asking for the domain and the range for the graph. This is a square root graph, and square root graphs originally have a domain of x is greater than or equal to 0 and a range of y is greater than or equal to 0. This one has been moved right 2, so the domain is also going to move right 2, and it's going to be x is greater than or equal to 2. This first point has the coordinates 2, 3. This next point has an x value of 3. The next point has an x value of 4, 5, 6. So all of those x values are larger than 2. So we're going to take this greater than or equal to 2 and drag it. And if you're trying to use your touch screen, it does not work. You do need to use your mouse to drag that. This graph has also been moved up 3. This point is at, where do I want to write that? The point is at 2, 3. So that's part of your domain. The 3 is going to be part of your range. But there is something a little bit weird about this graph. Usually, square root graphs look like this. They curve up and to the right, not down to the right. So this graph has been flipped. So that point is at 2, 3. The next point is at 3, 2. So that has a y value of 2. The next point has a y value of 1. Those y values are decreasing. The largest y value is 3. So we have y is less than or equal to 3 because all of the y values are 3 or smaller. So if the graph looks like this, the range is going to be y is greater than or equal to. If the graph is flipped around, that's kind of a bad one. If the graph is flipped around and it's going down and to the right, then your range is going to be y is less than or equal to. So y is less than or equal to 3. The next one is again asking for the domain and range of the graph. This is a cube root function. The domain is all real numbers. The range is all real numbers. You can just type in all real numbers. I believe this is set to accept all real numbers, real, a capital R, all real. I think we found every way that you could write this, but just make sure that the best way is to type in all real numbers because you're typing. That shouldn't take you too long. Solve the equation. The first thing that we would do in this equation is add 4 to both sides. So we would have 5x to the 3 halves equals 40. Then we would divide by 5. X to the 3 halves equals 8. To undo an exponent of 3 halves, you want to raise both sides to the reciprocal of that, which would be 2/3. Some people have been asking me, how do I enter this in my calculator? Whether you're using a graphing calculator or a scientific calculator, I would enter this the same. You type in 8, your exponent button, and then parentheses 2 divided by 3, close your parentheses. Your correct answer is 4. If you are having trouble figuring out how to enter that in your calculator, please let me know so I can help you figure out the best way to use your calculator. It does say check for extraneous solutions, so it might be worth checking. This is 5 times 4 raised to the 3 halves minus 4. Oops, I need to make sure that minus 4 is not in my exponent. Minus 4. And it does equal 36. So x equals 4. And you can use the buttons or you can type in 4. On this next one, we are trying to get the radical by itself. So start by subtracting 5. We have the cube root of x plus 10 equals -3. To get rid of a cube root, you cube both sides, raise both sides to the 3rd. That will get rid of the cube root. And on the right side, you have -3 raised to the 3rd, which is -27. You can then subtract 10 on both sides to get our answer of x equals -37. And again, you can check your answer to be sure that this works out. It should work out just fine. I'll let you know if I see any clues that indicate that, hey, this might be an extraneous solution. Usually if you get one solution like this and it's a cube root problem, I'm not suspicious of those answers. the first one that we did had the exponent of 2/3. The bottom number of that exponent was odd, which makes me not suspect this. Now, if you raise both sides to an exponent and the denominator is even, that's a red flag. You should check that solution. On this next one, if it was a square root or a fourth root, that leads to suspicion. I would check that solution. But so far, we haven't had anything suspicious that would indicate we need to check our solutions. This next one, we have the square root of 4x plus 1 equals the square root of x plus 10. We basically square both sides, and that gets rid of the radicals. So we have 4x plus 1 equals x plus 10. Subtract x on both sides. 3x plus 1 equals 10. So 3x equals 9, which means that x equals 3. Now, I'm not suspicious of this answer, but it is square roots, so if you want to check this, you totally can. Basically, just do 4 times 3 plus 1. That's 13, so you've got the square root of 13 on the left, and then type in 3 plus 10 on the right is 13. So if you plugged the 3 back into this original problem, you would have the square root of 13 on the left and the square root of 13 on the right. Those are definitely the same, so this answer is good. Your answer is 3. X equals 3. This is the problem that a lot of people miss, so I want you to really make sure you focus on this problem. To get rid of the radical on the right side, you need to square both sides. Notice I'm putting parentheses around the x plus 4 when I square it. That means it's x plus 4 times itself. That will give us x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Combine our like terms. And then we need to get one side equal to 0. So subtract x on both sides, subtract 6 on both sides. We have x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 10 and add up to 7. That would be 2 and 5. So x minus 2, or sorry, x plus 2 and x plus 5 equals 0. Our solutions then would be -2 and -5. All right, red flag. Two solutions, you definitely need to check for extraneous solutions. So I'm going to start by checking -2, and you're checking it back here in this original problem. So on the left side, -2 plus 4 equals the square root of -2 plus 6. -2 plus 4 is 2. -2 plus 6 is 4. 2 is the square root of 4, so that answer is good. Now let's plug in -5. -5 plus 4 equals the square root of -5 plus 6. -1 equals the square root of 1. The square root in this problem should equal a positive number, so that's our extraneous solution. The only solution that you have here is -2. Find the inverse. Remember that f of x is basically the same as y equals. So we have y equals x minus 2 over 7. Start by switching. Y becomes x becomes y. You get rid of this divided by 7 by multiplying by 7. So we have 7x equals y minus 2. You get rid of the minus 2 by adding 2 on both sides. So we have 7x plus 2 equals y. Our inverse is 7x plus 2. The y equals is the same as this f negative 1 of x. So all we have to do here is type in 7x plus 2. And you use your numbers. You can use these for like the plus sign and multiplication sign if you want to. You could do 7 multiplication sign x. This is not x. This is a multiplication sign, not an x. So just be aware of that in that little math keyboard thing. Okay. This one, it gives us f of x and g of x. and it wants us to subtract. So our f function is x squared minus 4x plus 5. We need to subtract the g function. I'm going to put that entire g function in parentheses because when you're subtracting g of x, you're subtracting all of that g function. That means the first one doesn't change at all, but we're subtracting 5x and we are subtracting a negative 3, which is adding 3. Then you combine your like terms. Negative 4x and negative 5x gives us negative 9x. Positive 5 and positive 3 gives us positive 8. So our correct answer here, and you can use the buttons or your keyboard, is x squared. Make sure you get out of the exponent, minus 9x plus 8. Oops. Notice this says part A, and above it says make sure you scroll down to answer all parts of the question. Don't forget about part B. Part B is state the domain. This one is all real numbers. There's nothing weird here. This one's going to be all real numbers. The next one, they want you to find g of f of x. So our g function is 5 times something minus 3. Our f function is x squared minus 4x plus 5. You're putting the f function into the g function. Distribute, this will give us 5x squared minus 20x plus 25, and we have that minus 3 that we bring down. Combine your like terms. 25 minus 3 is 22. So our final answer here is 5x squared, get out of your exponent, minus 20x plus 22. Part B, the domain is all real numbers. If it's just something squared, something x, there's nothing weird there that would make it anything but all real numbers. All right. This one is doing f of x divided by g of x. So our f of x function is x squared minus 4x plus 5. Our g of x function is 5x minus 3. So I'm going to type that in. There's no simplification that needs to be done here. So x squared minus 4x plus 5. Notice I, didn't get out of my exponent. Minus 4x plus 5. On the bottom, 5x minus 3. This one is not going to have a domain of all real numbers. You have to do 5x minus 3 equals 0. Find out what x value will give you 0 on the bottom. When x is 3/5, the bottom will equal 0, so x cannot equal 3/5. Which of the following best matches the graph? Okay, on this, you're really looking at this point right here. This point is how this square root graph has moved. It has moved right 3 and up 4. Remember, right 3, that's backwards. It actually is minus 3. So it's definitely not going to be the plus 3s. And then up 4, that's normal. So our answer is going to be that one, the minus 3 under the radical and the plus 4. Which one is the cube root of x plus 7? Plus 7 means left 7. So we need to look for the one where that point has moved left 7. And honestly, these two, that's not how the S shape looks. The S shape for cube root looks like these two on the right. So the one here has moved left 7 and down 2. Which of the following is the inverse? I did the steps for finding the inverse. I know it's the square root of x plus 7. Because this extra piece says x is greater than or equal to 0, that means it has to be the positive square root of x plus 7. And finally, find g of f of 5. That means that you plug 5 into the f function, start in the middle, 5 into the f function, that gives you 14. Plug 14 into the g function, and that will give you an answer of 40. So you're starting in the middle with 5. Plug 5 into the f function, see what you get. Plug that answer into the g function to get your final answer of 40.